Okay, so the objective of this video is to go over the appointment scheduling functions and how you can customize the appointment scheduling prompt. So, like it says in this article, appointment scheduling in Stammer is entirely driven by the prompts that you create for your chatbot, your AI agent. And with that in mind, one thing I do want to mention, as it says in this article, we have the appointment scheduling base system prompt. If you go inside Stammer, you can actually see that in the scheduling tab. And then when you click here. Now, one thing to remember is that, as you can see, mine is blank, right, for this particular agent. The reason for that is that all that happens here is this prompt gets appended to your base system prompt. And we originally separated out this functionality so that it was more apparent that, hey, this is the prompt that is for the appointment scheduling prompt. But if you wanted to, you could, make this blank and just put all that logic, all of that prompt logic inside your actual base system prompt. So I wanted to mention that just in case it makes it easier for you to understand really kind of what's going on here. It's all in the prompt, basically. And that is why this example here says rest of your prompt above. But let's get into each of these instructions for the AI agent. So the first thing we say to it is, you are an appointment scheduling bot that answers questions. You will always prompt the user to see if they want to schedule an appointment. So this is kind of the objective, right, overall of the bot. And one thing to keep in mind is that if your scenario is slightly different, for example, if you want the user to be the one to mention, when to schedule an appointment and you don't want the bot to just always attempt to do it, then obviously, you would change this. Or if you had some other scenario that I'm not thinking about, you would change that. Now, next we get into, and one thing I do want to mention, if it wasn't apparent, these are comments inside the Stammer system. So anything with, the 2 forward slashes does not get sent to the AI. So you can use them as comments. So if you want to, add explanations in here for yourself about, why you took this route or whatever, that is how you can do this. Okay, and now let's get into the actual how to schedule an appointment, or how we tell the agent how it can schedule an appointment. And if you're not familiar with this syntax, this is actually markdown syntax. Very simple. The pound sign here, or the hashtag sign, this is H represents a H1 heading, basically. It's always good in your prompts to try to structure it with as much additional information about what's important as possible. So that's why with the example appointment scheduling prompt, we add it in this kind of markdown format. So the first thing we do is how to schedule an appointment, right? Then we say get the time zone from the user. That's what this section of instructions is about. So then we say when the user wants to schedule an appointment, you will ask them what time zone they are in. Now, I know some of you have wanted the agent to not do this, to not ask the time zone. And I think your use case is that you have an agent or a chatbot that you want to deploy that is always going to operate for whatever reason in a certain time zone. And so obviously, if that was your use case, you would either want to get rid of this or modify the terminology. But the important thing to remember here is that this function that we're about to talk about, the get available times function, does expect a time zone string. So you would need to say something in here like, always call the get available times function with the time zone string, blah, 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 whatever yours is. And we did create a link in here if you want to know what these IANA time zone strings are. There is a link down here where you can click on this and see the examples. I'm in PST, so this is obviously the valid one for PST. So now with the get available time section, we tell the agent, okay, then you will use the get available times, and this should say actually function. I will quickly make that edit. Okay, so then we say, then you will use the get available times function, passing the user's time zone converted by U refers to the AI agent, to a valid IANA time zone string to get the available times for the agent. And then we show it, an example call here of how to call that. And let me show you, I want to show you what this actually returns to the AI agent. So, because if it's not already apparent, the way kind of function calling works is you provide capabilities to the agent and you tell and train, I'm saying that in quotes, but you tell it in the prompt how to actually use that functionality, right? And so that's exactly what we're doing here. But what this actually returns to the user is an example or an output like this, right? So a list of availabilities that a user is available actually. So it would look like this. Now, once that is done, then we inform the agent to propose the times to the user, right? So we say, then I want you to propose the next 3 time slots the agent is available in the following format. And the agent here, of course, represents the user, the user that the calendar is connected to, right? That the agent's calendar is connected to, the AI agent. And then we kind of give it an example format here. Obviously, if you wanted to change this and kind of do a different format, you could do that by giving this example here. It will pay attention to this and seems to follow the format that you put in here. Just keep in mind that it does need to be proper. Like if you're supporting multiple time zones and not going on one specific time zone, it's probably best to show the actual time zone of the connected calendar. Then we say show these time frames using markdown for clarity. Each day and its available time should be displayed on separate lines for easy readability. Now, we added that because occasionally this terminology wasn't enough, and that just helped give it, additional context of what to do and how to format it. Then we say if the user doesn't like any of these times, give them 3 others that will work. Okay, and now we get into the scheduling the appointment section. So then we say when the user picks a time, you will get their email. If the user has already provided the email, then ask if they want to use the same one, else ask for their email. Now, occasionally, depending on the other logic in your prompt, sometimes this may conflict. So if you get it kind of asking weird questions like it's not sure if it's already provided the email, you can modify this to not do that. You could just say, get the user's email. Then we say once you have their email and the time, you will then use the schedule appointment function to schedule the appointment by calling it with the email and the time in RFC 3339 format. And then, of course, once again, we give it an example call with some example parameters that we are passing into the function. And then we give it an important note, because when I was originally developing this months and months ago, occasionally it would get confused, and it would actually, now this was usually with GPT 3.5 from what I remember, but occasionally it would get confused and actually call the function with this someone at example.com. So that's why we added this line here, important note. This is just an example call for you to understand. Please do not use this email. Instead, ask the user for their email and use that. So we're kind of reiterating to the agent, hey, this is just an example call. Now, finally, this is the section dealing with informing the user that the appointment has been scheduled. And we simply say, when the appointment has been successfully scheduled, go ahead and include the link that the function gives you to the successfully scheduled appointment. And I'm noticing one other minor typo here. We've got 2 these, so I will quickly, fix that. Okay, great. And what this actually means is that this function, which I'm about to show you, actually returns, I'll show you the return value of it. So here's the return value of this schedule appointment function. And it returns kind of right now a Google Meet link. So to indicate that this, it gives it to the user to say, hey, this is the link that you can click on. And if you don't tell it to do that, occasionally it will just say to the user, okay, great, I've scheduled the appointment. Now the user would still get an email, but we think it's best to probably include the link in the response. And now if your use case is slightly different or you don't want to do that, then of course you can modify this. But this is basically how appointment scheduling works. And hopefully this gives you some tips on how you can kind of customize this to your use case. And if you have any additional questions here, feel free to reach out and let us know.